Hi, and welcome to Extraordinary Pursuits, a podcast from BIP Ventures. I'm your host, Rochelle Kuramoto. Join me each week for masterclasses and conversations about the skills and experiences that matter most to startups in the innovation economy. You will hear from subject matter experts and founders. We're here to inspire, inform, and occasionally even entertain you. Let's get started. Today, we welcome BIP Capital CEO Mark Buffington back to the podcast for more of our conversation about AI. Today's focus is on generative AI, or GenAI. Mark explains how GenAI agents can create almost unimaginable efficiencies, like transforming entire workflows and tightening decision cycles. From the evolution of prompt engineering to the rise of context-aware agents, we talk about how this next generation of AI is already driving exponential ROI with time, productivity, and the potential for long-reaching outcomes. You will hear why the firms and founders and professionals who don't adopt these tools are at risk of being left behind. If you're curious about the practical implications of GenAI on your career, your company, and your capacity to innovate and lead, this conversation is a vision of what's next and an urgent call to begin. So let's get started. Hey, Mark.
How you doing?
So today we are going to continue our conversation about AI. And today we're going to sort of lean into GenAI, which I know is something that you have been particularly interested in and, are really taking a careful look at both internally and across our portfolio. So we have a couple of questions. And the first is how you see industry expectations related to GenAI ROI evolving. We'll kind of start with that.
Yeah, I think it's different in different industries or vertical markets. But I think what's ubiquitous across all industries is the ability of, or the capabilities of AI to augment all sorts of processes and workflows, like particularly management workflows. So you know this, but one of the ways we're using this is, now we'll use a AI note taker on Zoom calls, and one of the things it does is summarize all the follow-ups and to-dos. And rather than me then going to take those and transcribe them on my general project and to-do list, it just automatically does it.
Yep.
But then it takes the next step of automatically pinging. Like if somebody needs, I need some information for me to answer a question on a follow-up I might have, it'll automatically ping that person for the information. And so it starts managing the way I would. It's like, hey, can I get an update on this? Or, hey, what's the status of this project, or follow-up? So, I've said this in a couple different interviews and discussions with people, but what I think is so interesting, and the way I'm starting to think about it, is in many ways with the managerial companion, I'm creating almost like a digital AI companion of myself that is just doing more things. And I think that's ubiquitous across almost all industries that, that require management, even of oneself. And so, I think we're seeing a lot of that, and that just allows me to extend as a manager. So therefore I don't have to hire as many people. So, some of the ROIs are, more immediate and short term, and others are longer term.
Yeah.
And that's usually ROI means in dollars, but also sanity.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll wake up at night and say, oh my gosh, I got to follow up on this. And, I'm doing that less and less often now because the AI is keeping up to date on follow-ups and different nudges or whatever it takes in management to move the ball and get things done. So, so that's been good. And then I think maybe specifically, there's vertical specific ROIs that, that some workflows are much more automatable, excuse the phrase, but, are much more prone to automation than others, and particularly really laborious things that can be repeated over and over again, where it takes, in general, a lot of manual hands that can be automated, and AI helps that process. I suspect that the higher ROIs will be in spaces like that, which is one of the reasons we're focusing a lot on service businesses and in the application of AI to those processes, because they're going to drive such efficiencies then therefore return on investment.
Yeah,
So.
no, that's amazing. And, I think we've had conversations on the podcast before about, virtual assistants and bringing people in to do those kinds of things. And I'm sure that there's still, very much a role for them, but, to have the technology sense the next step and to take care of that for you and for you to trust it to do that, I think is a really huge productivity step.
100%. And like, this is, I am using AI and the booking agents on that and to manage my calendar. I've always been like really guarded on my calendar. Like I never use the great products like Calendly because people are always trying to grab time and it's like, no, I want to manage it. I want to control it. And so, even though I love the product and a good friend started it, but it was like, I just never felt like I would give that level of control. And, but I feel much better about AI because it's not just hey, here's an open look at my calendar, grab the time where you need it. It's, I can put rules in on who can access that and, how do I open up various amounts of time and things like that. And so, I think probably the role of the executive assistant, like most roles, will change. And I think I've gotten over in the last probably 2 months, almost every role is going to change with AI. Definitely. I can't, like, there's very few things. And I was thinking like the trades and things like that. Like if you're a plumber, maybe AI wouldn't do that, but I'm almost certain that robots will do that at some point in the future. Will do the plumbing work.
Yeah.
And there might be a few trades and things, electrical, where you need really fine motor skills to be able to, to provide service in a certain area or not. But I think almost everything is, ultimately going to be somewhat augmented or replaced by either robots that are empowered with artificial intelligence or some other form, software or whatever it might be, empowered by artificial intelligence. And the example I would give, if you haven't seen on like TikTok or Twitter or Instagram, the robotic bartenders, not the robotic bartenders. We have some experience with that, by the way. No, the robotic barbers that cut hair.
No, that scares me.
It does?
Yes.
Well, I have to tell you, you should watch the video because, humans, will make a little mistake or they don't quite get all the hair so that it's, but a robot never makes that mistake. And they do it like the video I was watching on this was doing it with like laser guided clippings. And so it was like, and the other thing that they were capable of doing is taking a picture before it started and said, do you want your hair like X, Y, Z? And they could show you options. And they could say, yeah, I want it like that. And then they could basically do it exactly like that. And
after mocking it up with your face.
So I started thinking to myself, like, that's got to be, in general, a barber, which you might even, or a stylist, or you might describe as somewhat of an artist, and they work with you and consult on, hey, I want to go shorter or whatever. But a robot could actually show you what the outcome might be, so you could really see it on your face. And so, and if you haven't seen the videos, you should go check it out. It's like super awesome. But,
going to have to see that.
But I think most jobs are going to be impacted, and most jobs significantly impacted by AI. And I historically have been of the view that technology creates more jobs and it disrupts. I'm not so sure about AI, and it's the first time that and really because I've become very familiar with the tools and the challenges of the tools, but once solved, what the power of what they can do. And they're just going to replace a lot of human work. And so I end up wondering, is it going to replace more jobs than not?
And it creates.
And we can expand on that as we go through this. But my personal goal is, I'm taking the approach of how do we augment all of our team members, but how do we augment the firm? I suspect our hiring will slow down because we'll do more with AI in the future. And the goal would be to have like 1,000 agents that come to work with us every day to solve various problems. And some that you use and some that other groups use. And I just can't imagine a world now where all companies are not, employing artificial intelligence, but agents specifically designed to do specific tasks. And I can't, and then when I get to there, and then I think this is absolutely going to have an impact on employment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now we may have way more companies because it's easier to build companies and
Absolutely.
do all those things. And so,
Yeah.
those things are hard to predict.
Yeah.
But I think within the given company in the future, 5 years, 10 years from now, more and more will be done by AI agents and technologies.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I also think that it probably shifts where some of those ROI priorities are, into training for the people who are there using those agents so that, everyone knows how to optimize the resources.
Right. Yeah, I think we have an investment in workforce in a company that does workforce development. And I think that's going to be a huge space going forward. And one of the elements that I talk to that founder, it's a woman, about all the time is, what I find even in my friend group and other people that I talk to is a lot of times they don't exactly know how to get started with AI. And I didn't either, but I was persistent with trial and error and watching tons of videos on TikTok and places you wouldn't, imagine. But there's not even great training on AI at like colleges and things because the tools are emerging so quickly that you really almost have to build a network of what people are posting. And so I do a lot of that on TikTok, which it wasn't my desire to have a TikTok account and profile and manage it. But there's so much good information and video content where you can see like, oh my word, they're doing that to generate leads. We could do that. And that type of stuff. And so I think as I've really become conversant with the tools and the capabilities, I've really started to form the view that we are going to live, and this is going to happen very rapidly. The people who command the tools are going to have a lot of leverage in the market and in their careers, and the challenges and the projects they get to take on and
it's really exciting.
It's super exciting. But on the flip side, if you're not embracing the tools, my suspicion is a lot of those people will get either replaced or bypassed or and so I like this idea of workforce development to help people embrace the tools.
And that learning mindset is really super important
for sure.
So, what do you think will be some of the biggest hurdles to kind of reaching that state that you're talking about? I mean, I know learning and adoption certainly come up as two of them, but what do you think might be some of the hurdles that we'll have to encounter rapidly, probably?
Well, I think the learning thing is worth unpacking a little bit. When I first started using the tools, the whole idea was, you got to go prompt in some large language model, an AI engine. And you even heard people talking about, the wave of the future is prompt engineers.
I think that was like 4 months ago.
Well, it was like maybe. It probably feels like that, like a year.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure that's a thing anymore because all of the LLMs that we're working in, whether it's Copilot or DeepSeek or Claude, et cetera, all of those have taught themselves how to follow on prompt. So now, almost always you have to write your own prompt. Hey, I want to know X, or I'm thinking about building a marketing campaign or generating leads, and or I'd like to increase SEO traffic or whatever it might be. Help me develop a campaign to do that. So you can, that initial campaign, like the LOI or the LLM and the AI engine can't read your mind.
Right.
But once you prompt it, that's interesting. I mean, if you're watching Neuralink, maybe. But once you prompt it, what's different today than maybe even 12-ish months ago was, if you prompted it then and you got a decent answer, but you needed to perfect it, you'd have to keep prompting it to perfect that answer.
Right.
Today the LLM itself will give you a follow-on prompt to say like, okay, here are the basics of developing a better SEO strategy. Would you like to unpack how you could segment that in different markets and how you, et cetera, and how you can drive, that kind of thing.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. And it does a lot of that thinking or, asking of the next follow-on question for you. And then you can say, yes, I would like that. And you kind of follow a path. And at the end it says, would you like me to put this all in a presentation? And, right. And so,
yes, I would.
Yeah. And so, I had this, my brother will be glad that he's making the podcast. Not really. But I was talking to him. He's I'd say he's kind of a fast follower, but he wasn't on the bleeding edge of doing this. But I've been talking to him for, the better part of 6 months about the, kind of the advances we were starting to generate and build within the company on AI.
Yeah.
And I think he was a bit of a skeptic, but, was kind of in the, what, I better try this out. So he wrote his first prompt, a few months ago, and he just called me. He's like, this is unbelievable. Like, I can't believe it. How does it know what I want to ask next?
Yeah.
And, I think that's, so people need to take that leap and start learning and playing with the tools.
Yeah.
I think so. But, after the, what I'd call the follow-on prompting revolution and the maturity of that, a lot of people started moving to, building agents. But they realized that, no matter, depending on the subject matter, if it's broad, the LLMs are trying to condense that down into some reason. They'll hallucinate. They'll fill in the blank. It's called hallucinating. It's more like oddly connecting the dots is what I would call it. But the answers that just don't make sense or not, or, they're kind of vague. And so, in the AI world, that's called hallucination. But the way people started to address that was to build a bunch of these agents that focus on much narrower sets of information. So, for example, when we first started using AI, as you well know, we built an agent that was a financial agent that would go digest people's financial statements. Today, we have a revenue agent, an expense agent, a COGS agent, an expense agent or an OPEX agent, a margins agent, so on and so forth, a balance sheet agent, a current accounts agent, liabilities agent, all that. So to really get specific in those topics, and that minimizes the hallucinations. The next evolution was, that's great. And they're really good at answering, the LLMs are good at answering questions about facts.
Yes, very straightforward.
But they're not good at answering questions about context. And so, what you see developing today is model context protocol. And I think that's probably I'm sure there are people working on things that are more sophisticated, but where we've gotten in our evolution is to really understand how to teach our agents. So we have the kind of the fact gathering agents and the data gathering agents in each of those areas, but then we have context agents that are trying to make sense of it. And so, for example, and I might have used this in the last podcast, I don't remember, but we, one of the things we saw was, company ABC a year ago in May of 2024 had, $1 million of revenue. In May of 2025, they have $1.05 million of revenue represented. So that's a fact. Those are facts.
It's fact.
And it does a great job of retrieving that, summarizing it. But then where it hallucinates or kind of has trouble with context, it'll say representing outstanding year-over-year growth. Well, that's not 5% growth. Year-over-year is not outstanding growth in the venture world. But how would it know that? How would the LLM know that without context? And so you have to, bring context to it to not only assess it, but then understand all the essentially the influences that. Do you have slow or lagging sales because you're not generating enough leads and awareness? Is it because the sales process is broken? Is it because you're churning a bunch of accounts and people, you sold them on something, but it didn't quite live up to what you sold them, and they're now churning or attriting and leaving that business? And so, teaching, that's what humans do. They not only take that information, but then they go understand all the components to, why, and what's really going on and where things are breaking down. And so, teaching AI to do that and to look at multiple variables and really understand it, and to, opine or give, feedback or output that really explains that is, at least where we're evolving now. A lot of exciting advances, but I think we're still in the machine learning phase.
No question.
We're not into
we're still feeding the model.
We're still feeding the model. And when we reach kind of the ability to think equally with humans, which is essentially artificial general intelligence. I don't think we're there yet, but it's getting there. To me, the next big frontier is this context. Humans are good at most humans are good at context. How do I go figure out, okay, that's happening. We're spending more money than I thought we would spend. Why? How do I go isolate that? What's happening?
I think, you brought up a couple of really interesting points. I think one is it gets the human to the ability to start digging into why faster. we can get there
100%.
so much faster. And, I think, returning to this idea of ROI and, it's not only the efficiency, but it's the depth of knowledge that we're able to get to because we are able to get there faster.
So for sure. And for us, I mean, we're having to repurpose what our investment team does because they have the data at their fingertips so much faster. I mean, you've been here long enough.
Yep.
We chased data for weeks and weeks to get a picture of what would happen the previous month.
Yeah.
We're not doing that anymore.
No.
And so that's, that's tremendous ROI. I probably could start reducing staff, but we're deploying more and more money. So I think I've got all these people trained, a real asset on how to use it and what we're looking for.
Right.
So we're repurposing, to your point, on the interpretation of it in that context. And how do we have faster and more meaningful conversations with our portfolio companies?
Yes.
And so those are longer dated ROIs, but there's no doubt about it. Like our portfolio is healthier than it's ever been from a percentage of companies that are thriving and doing well, and frankly, in a pretty tough market. And so it's a tremendous learning tool. I mean, you mentioned that earlier.
Yes. And that was actually the other thing that I think is so interesting that I hear you talking about. And I don't know that I've heard this necessarily talked about in the marketplace, but, we've had the Industrial Revolution. We've had the knowledge revolution. I think we're in a learning revolution. And I think that we are learning alongside of computers now for the first time ever. And that parallel learning, that ability to learn and to teach across the two platforms is really, really exciting.
Yeah. I don't know if we can coin that, the learning revolution. We should, if we didn't take that from somebody else, we should brand that as our own. But I really agree. I mean, you heard me talk about at our symposium last October about the human machine paradigm and this interaction between machine and man, where or humans, where we will become much smarter beings, much healthier beings because of all of the intelligence around us. I mean, we could delve off into the stuff that's going on with Neuralink now, but that's just amazing. Essentially an input to your brain. I talked to my brother about it. He's like, I would never do that. And so then after he started writing the prompts, he's like, well, wait a minute. I could see how that would really, it'd be faster to, if you have a question, you could just pull all that information into your head quickly. I mean, we're probably over a decade away from that, but maybe not. I think Elon Musk would disagree. I think he believes that very soon we're going to have wearables and all sorts of inputs that allow us to manage much more information in our head with some form of augmentation under Neuralink. So it's a fascinating time. I mean, I think if people that embrace the tools, like I was, as you know, I'm writing a book on effectively how various technologies have evolved, both the way we live and how that affects everything, all of our lives, including politics and other things. Includes how we go to school or how we do things and how we live our lives. And so I wanted to go all the way back to like the Sumerian Mesopotamian period and understand how those economies and innovations in those economies started to evolve and change. Change the way people lived and interacted with one another. And it was amazing. I really feel like I'm kind of an expert on, economic activity, its impact on the way people lived, like all the way back 5,000-6,000 years to, all the way through the Renaissance or even the medieval period and the Renaissance and then the Age of Enlightenment or Age of Reason and then Industrial Revolution and all the way up to now. And it's interesting how the patterns in each of those periods are the same.
They resemble one another. Absolutely.
I mean, the people who embraced the technology, even if it was the wheel, right? It's, hey, wait a minute. The wheel now enables us to put a cart. So now we can grow fields outside of the town that are much larger and produce more food. And if I'm one of the people that owns carts with wheels and I transport it in, I can earn a better living, so to speak. That kind of truism, if you will, those who embrace these new innovations throughout history has been true, even as with something what we would now think is as simple as the wheel. But I think uh, what's happening now with AI is, like, to your point on a learning revolution. It's and I said this to my brother, I say this to my daughter, and anybody who'll listen all the time. Like, I was around when the World Wide Web
Yeah.
started to come, and it was
Yeah.
just graduating. Yeah,
Yeah.
just graduating from college,
Yeah.
but I don't think I quite knew how to capture the opportunity that was in front of us.
Yeah.
And that opened up, as you called it, the knowledge revolution. You just had
Yeah.
access to so much information that
Yeah.
wasn't in an encyclopedia or what have you. Um, but this enables you to learn so fast on so many things.
Yeah.
Even with the knowledge revolution of the World Wide Web, you still had to go search,
Yeah.
research, and read documents.
Yeah.
But now you can just digest so much information in a short period of time, summarize it, double click into what you need more explanation on.
Yep.
So, I think I've been saying this, I think this opportunity comes along once in not a lifetime, but a few lifetimes.
Yeah.
But to me, this is going to be one of the greatest impacts on how technology affects the way we live.
Yep.
And the way we interact with one another, far more than anything else that we've seen,
Yep.
in the last, probably since the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
So, I hope listeners are embracing it. And I just think anybody who's not embracing it and learning, or particularly their kids that are not embracing it and learning it, they're going to be behind the eight ball.
Yeah. I think that's a great point and a great place to stop for the day. Yeah. And I would encourage anybody who has not listened to the first conversation to go back and do that, because this series of conversations we're having about AI, I think, is not only very telling in terms of how we think about venture and investing and taking care of founders, but also just you're so close to the front line of this technology. And so anyone who's thinking about how AI is playing into their own career or what they're headed to do, and maybe feeling that little bit of friction from fear of just getting started, will take some motivation from your knowledge and wisdom.
100%.
So.
I mean, there are going to be great businesses built. We're
Yep.
trying to build on just how to train people, how to use it in their career, and how to get started, and what the issues are. And that's, I think that's a multi-billion-dollar market that, we all need to learn, not only how to use it, but how to get better and better and better at it to do more things. And I envision a world where all of us will have like 1,000 agents working for us.
Yeah.
And then probably more, who knows? And, so, but anyway, love talking about this stuff. And
awesome. Well, we will keep these conversations going. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Extraordinary Pursuits. If you enjoyed what you heard, please like and share the show. It helps others to find us. Now, let's go build the future of the innovation economy.